Hello and welcome to another edition of Another Book Review. This week I'll be reviewing Stephen Graham Jones's short story collection, The Ones That Got Away. I don't have a cover to share, unfortunately. I did listen to this on audiobook. I'll talk very briefly about the author, go into an overview of the stories that I like the most in the collection without spoiling anything. Then I'll go into my overall thoughts on the collection, who I think the collection is for. Then we'll finish it up with what I will be reading next time. Should be a pretty short video this week. Stephen Graham Jones is a pretty well-renowned author. He's been writing for over 20 years. His first novel came out in the year 2000, and he wrote his first book while getting his PhD at Florida State. His dissertation became his first novel, which is pretty cool. And he's known for being relatively prolific. He's written, I think, 22 books and is relatively young. I think he's 49 or 50 years old. He's just now getting kind of some of the renown and acclaim. His last couple novels, The Only Good Indians and I believe My Heart is a Chainsaw is the other one, which I haven't read either of, but both of those novels are getting really good reviews. I think one of them got written up in Rolling Stone, and the other one, I think The Only Good Indians, won a bunch of horror awards. So he is definitely coming into the mainstream more and more, which is cool to see. This collection, The Ones That Got Away, is a collection of horror short stories. It came out roughly 2012, so about 10 years ago. It is a collection of stories, so you have everything from body horror to more Lovecraftian horror. You have a little bit of kind of Seven-esque thriller detective story. So there's a zombie short story, so you have kind of different flavors of different things, which is pretty cool. The stories that I like the most, there's one about kind of a pair of mean girls who invite one of their friends to come to a wedding, and they try to give her kind of a diet supplementary to trying to get her to slim down with kind of disastrous results. I enjoyed that story a lot. That's probably one of my favorite in the collection. The other one is the one kind of zombie story that I mentioned, which is about this scam artist in like the old American Southwest who comes into this town, and then things go haywire. He has a good short story, and I don't have any of the names of the short story, so I apologize. There's one of the short stories is about it's kind of a retelling of the famous urban legend about an escaped serial killer with a hook for a hand, or escaped mental patient with a hook for a hand. That was really a highlight. That was a lot of fun. And there's a couple of other ones that I thought were pretty good. I did find it to be kind of a mixed collection. There's some that I really gelled with and some of the ones that I didn't. The one thing I noticed when I was reading it was the ones that were really long, and I listened to it on audiobook, and so there were some chapters that were multiple chapters for the same story. So there's a couple stories that were about an hour each that were a little long, and the pacing of those stories were off, and I felt like those were weaker stories in the collection. So for me, like, the sweet spot was when he would get those kind of shorter stories. So I don't know what they would be in page count, but I'm guessing they would have been like 20, less than 30 pages, and to me it's like where his sweet spot hits. A lot of them involve children, so if you're someone who has a hard time with children in peril, this is not the collection for you. Some of them involve cannibalism, which is, if that's something that is off-putting to you, you're not going to enjoy this. Most of them, I found the horror elements were more psychological. There wasn't as much blood and gore. There is a little bit in some of the short stories, but I didn't feel it to be over-the-top gory. Another one of the stories that I liked a lot is a story about a prison guard who has a tattoo of a bull on his shoulder, and that story has kind of twists and turns in it that I thought was really well done. So that's the collection. I think it was definitely a mixed bag. I think, like a lot of short story collections are, I was surprised that I tended to like the ones that are a little bit shorter. In the kind of the afterword, he mentions Joe Lansdale and Stephen King as being big influences on him, and you can definitely see that in his writing. So if you've never checked him out and you kind of lean towards shorts, this is a good collection to check. I found it pretty uneven. There's some stuff that I liked, some stuff that I didn't, but those were the ones that I did like. And I do recommend this. Like I said, I would maybe recommend this to a college freshman, maybe a really pretty mature high school senior. I read High Cotton when I was in a senior in high school, and I thought this was probably, based on my recollection of it, probably about the same level of maturity required. So maybe a mature high school senior can read this, but I would probably lend towards maybe a freshman in college to do some of the more extreme parts of it. But That's The Ones That Got Away by Stephen Graham Jones. Next time I'm going to be reading George Saunders' Lincoln in the Bardo. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Hit a like on the video if you could for me. And until next time, bye.